Destiny 2, so many things to say to you, both good, bad, and everywhere in between. You're like the hero we deserve, or rather the one we're given. Hey guys, Casey here, and welcome to my review for Destiny 2. Destiny 2 was released on September 8th, 2017, and yes, it has taken me this long to play enough of the game to where I feel comfortable enough to say I can thoroughly talk about it. But where do I even start with a behemoth as monolithic as Destiny 2? The game tries a little bit of everything. MMO? Sure. First person shooter? Check. Epic single player campaign? Maybe? That's it. Let's start with the campaign of the game. Full disclaimer though guys, I played only a mere hour or two of Destiny 1, got bored and promptly decided to sell it and play something else instead. This I feel may actually be beneficial to my review of Destiny 2 though, as I don't have any sort of pre-existing attachment to the franchise. I can look at Destiny 2 purely on its own merits and not what its earlier installment built or achieved. So with that out of the way, Destiny 2's campaign is, well, it's okay. Is it good? Not really. Is it bad? I wouldn't say it's bad either. It's simply okay. So from what I could piece together, an evil alien race called the Not Covenant is invading Earth and seeks not only the destruction of humankind and all who dwell on the planet, but also to turn an ancient mysterious machine into a weapon on a galactic scale. The Cabal swiftly invade the planet, take control of said ancient ball deemed the Traveler, and quickly start laying waste to the planet, and here enters you. Chosen Guardian number 437 or something, who knows. There's a lot of Chosen Guardians running around trying to save everything. After a brief encounter with the Cabal leader, Gil, oversized grunt from Halo, you are stripped of your superpowers, thrown off a ship thousands of feet in the sky that you somehow survive without your powers, and are forced to regain your abilities and take the fight back to the enemy. I'll be honest, it's a pretty damn good action flick style story that has potential, but unfortunately it doesn't get anywhere near the level of depth I was hoping for and expecting from Bungie. There are zero twists, turns, or revelations, and everything you think will happen in the beginning of the game surely happens in due time. On your way through the game, you'll encounter other enemies too, other than just the Cabal. There's these zombie-looking things that I think are called the Hive or something, and also the Vex and the Taken. The only reason I remember any of the names of these races are literally because I looked it up on the Wikipedia specifically for this review. That's kind of how little impact these different enemy types left on me. They look different, but honestly they all feel about the same, with the exclusion of the Vex, as they kinda teleport about and are a bit more intriguing and annoying than other enemy factions. So the story is straightforward, and the enemies are a bit bland. And with a couple slowdowns from having to be a certain level before being able to do certain missions, I was able to beat the main campaign of the game in just about 6.5 to 7 hours. A bit on the short side honestly, but at least it didn't wear out its welcome. If the campaign was the main attraction or selling point in Destiny 2, it would be a huge letdown, as there really isn't anything in it to write home about besides its stellar, and I mean truly top-notch visual design and soundtrack. The game looks so damn good. Oh man. Bungie and their skyboxes, they never fail to impress. Oh man, I miss Bungie games. Oh man, I miss Bungie games. Oh god. You guys don't know what this is doing to me. I'm like half erect right now. It's like, ooh. This is, you don't get this type of scenery in any other game. Even with the occasional texture bug or two, that I had a really hard time believing I was playing it on a console instead of a high-end PC. But sure enough, somehow Bungie pulled off one of the best looking games to date. But then again, I've always been a big fan of Bungie's art design. Mostly their use of color palettes. When something is blue, it's very deep and vibrant blue, When something is red, it's as red as can be, and when something is green, well, it looks green. I know this may come across a bit odd sounding, but anyone who has ever played a Bungie game before probably knows what I'm getting at here. The lighting and color choices are just simply great. And as for the pre-mentioned soundtrack, even with the absence of Marty O'Donnell, Michael Salvatore did an amazing job, and most of the time the soundtrack tells more of a story than the game ever even gets close to telling. So that's about it as far as the main campaign is concerned. Wow, this long and I'm just now getting to the meat and potatoes of the game, the multiplayer. Well, here we go. So if you're going to play Destiny 2, chances are you're in it for the multiplayer. And Destiny 2 has no shortage of multiplayer options. In fact, most of the game revolves around multiplayer. So from the get-go, I'd recommend bringing a friend into this with you. And if you don't have a friend, well, bribe one like I did with Dragonwhelp. Yeah, that just entered the script. Speaking of Dragonwhelp, here in just a second I'll be letting him take over with some of the thoughts with the multiplayer, as I feel he'd be just as good at speaking about it as I am, since after all he played like most of this game with me so far. So anyway, in Destiny 2, you got your open world-ish aspect where loads of players run around the world and are able to participate together in random public events, which are some of the most fun things to do in the game, at least in my opinion. And you can also drag them into short missions called adventures, and if you're really desperate, they can join you in the campaign as well after the brief single-player only introductory. Apart from that, you also have strikes, difficult dungeons so to speak, that you and a handful of others can grind through, fight a boss at the end, and hope for good loot. And then there is the all-important and popular raid, that I haven't done yet. Yeah guys, I know, Casey, you're sitting here telling me you're going to do a review on Destiny 2 and you haven't even beat the raid yet? And I'm here to tell you that yes, that is absolutely the case. Because one, I don't have enough friends to do it with yet, and two, the game offers so much other stuff that if I wanted to get this review out in even a remotely realistic and meaningful time, that I just can't afford to do it. So now that you guys know my deep dark secret, we'll continue on. Public events and adventures are pretty straightforward, so we won't talk much about them. However, we will talk a bit about strikes. Strikes are pretty cool, if not a bit off-putting. They're pretty easy missions as you go through killing loads of mindless AI until you get to the boss. Then all hell breaks loose, and the game jumps in difficulty by the handfuls. Once you beat the boss though, you are rewarded with some decent loot, or on the rare occasion some either really good loot or absolute garbage. Either way, if you have friends that you're going through these with, it can be quite a bit of fun to just kind of turn off your brain and grind away in hopes of achieving that next piece of amazing loot, which after all is what this game is all about in the end. How cool can you make your dude look? There is also competitive multiplayer in the game, where you can take your ridiculously overpowered character in and fight other ridiculously overpowered players. Dragon, I'll let you take over now and give your 2 cents on the competitive side of Destiny 2.
Thanks, Casey. So Destiny 2 has a lot of cool and fun elements, from the public events to the sweet exploration of the maps themselves. Competitive multiplayer, or the Crucible, as the game so pats itself on the back to make it sound important, isn't really one of them. I mean, the basis of a good time is there, and in concept it would seem to be great, but when the entire rest of the game centers around how powerful can you make your character, you're bound to run into some issues when you bring that mentality into a competitive setting. After just a couple of matches, you'll quickly start to realize just how out of balance the game can feel at times. Whether or not you have high-end weapons matters here a lot. The game does at least try to make somewhat of an effort by limiting and spawning power weapon ammo to particular locations every few minutes, so everyone has a better shot of getting it, but the players with higher level guns can often camp these spawn points and just rack in the kills while waiting for the power ammo to spawn. It gets frustrating pretty quickly. Another way they attempt to balance this game is by limiting teams to just 4 this time around, which brings the whole pace of the game to a much better one, giving you at least some time to think when an encounter begins, instead of just turning around a corner and dying instantly because all 6 enemy players are holding hands just waiting for you. They also added a couple of new game modes that serve this new team size much better, including the most intriguing one called Survival, where each team has a life pool of only 8 lives and must work together as well as possible in order to achieve victory. This game mode is by far Casey's favorite from what he's told me. By having 1 or 2 fun modes and otherwise maddening experience, it still isn't that great, especially since there is no current playlist options. So you must play random game modes on random maps, instead of the ones you truly like. Hopefully over time, Bungie will patch, tweak, and adjust the Crucible to make it a much more fun experience for all, instead of just those who have endless hours to grind for that premium gear to bring into the fight.
Couldn't have said it any better if I wrote it myself, man. So what have we got here so far? An average campaign, some good and bad multiplayer experiences. Well, what in the hell makes Destiny 2 so great to people then? Well, the answer is short but also super complex. In fact, I've already given the answer many times throughout this review so far. The answer? Well, it's loot. Simple and as complicated as that. Destiny 2 gives solid and addicting gameplay with an even more addicting main mechanic. Everyone wants to feel powerful, and you too can feel powerful with enough time and energy spent in the game. With every new piece of loot, you can look just a little bit cooler, or become just ever so slightly stronger. And this feeds into our very core nature as human beings. As humans, we desire power. We desire to be recognized among a crowd. We want to stand out. We want to feel special. And so Destiny 2 pushes and lets players give into these primal feelings and desires. You'll often be telling yourself, just one more strike. Just one more mission. Alright, one last public event. Until you look at the clock and you're hours and hours past the time that you had originally wanted to sign off for the night. Does this make the game good though? I mean, to some I'm sure it does, but it doesn't need to be good, as unlocking and obtaining new gear sends endorphins to your brain telling you that you are indeed accomplishing something, and that in its own right is good. Your body craves these feelings whether you realize it or not. And that is how Destiny 2 can consume endless hours of gamers' lives. For better or for worse, the game is addicting. Now, would these people still give in to these cravings if the game wasn't fun? No, probably not. But Bungie in the end knows how to make a solid and fun experience. If you look at any individual experience you can have in Destiny 2 though, it would probably not be that impressive. But when you look into it as a whole, the picture becomes very clear. Destiny 2 brings awesome gunplay, a social aspect, and a truly addicting mechanic that will drive players for years and years to come. Or at least until Destiny 3 comes out, then it'll start all over again. So given everything that I've talked about already, it is time to come to my final score for Destiny 2. My final score for Destiny 2 is a 6 out of 10. A better than average game with its own set of flaws that are ever so hard to see because of its amazing mechanics. I know a lot of you will probably disagree with my final score, whether you think it's too low or too high, but keep in mind, this is from my opinion and experiences. If you think Destiny 2 deserves a 10 out of 10, then by all means, feel free to believe that. If you think Destiny 2 deserves a 2 out of 10, then you're just as right. Because Destiny 2 is an odd beast. It appeals to such a vast and different thing for each player that sometimes when you're trying to hit every target at once, you can just as easily miss them all. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my review for Destiny 2. If you did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more daily content. I'd also like to thank Dragonwhelp for joining me in this review, and if you guys want to check out his channel and show him some love, there's a link to his channel in the description down below, along with the end card during the credits. Well guys, until next time.